Every type of survivor that we encounter in Dead Rising has been influenced by the outbreak's tragedy. Some are resilient, some cry, and some, like Paul Carson, are deformed by their own fears and insecurities. Because of his dangerous tendencies and paranoia, Paul is one of the few characters in the game who can be saved if Frank makes the decision to do so. In today's video, we'll go deep into Paul Carson's narrative, his encounter with Frank, and the tragic irony of his character development. If you enjoy these character breakdowns, please like, subscribe before we begin. I appreciate each and every one of you watching, and your support truly helps the channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. When the outbreak happens, Paul Carson, a young man with a dangerous mental state, becomes even more paranoid. Before the world fell apart, Paul was frequently bullied and had a hard time fitting in. This history makes him defensive and makes him feel alone. After the outbreak, he starts to see everyone in his immediate vicinity as a threat because he lacks trust. Paul expresses his anger through fire in a more destructive way than other survivors who organize into groups. Paul Carson's erratic punk-inspired appearance is a reflection of his troubled nature. He's wearing a dark shirt over a leather vest and has long, unkempt black hair. He looks a little older than his actual age of 19, as evidenced by his tense facial expressions that frequently convey anger and paranoia. His entire appearance is a reflection of an outsider's mindset, pushed to the limit by the outbreak and his own mental state.
Please stop! What have we ever done?
You do it all the time! You look at me and laugh! Who's there? Stay back! Stay back! Get in closer and I'll light this place up! I suppose you came here to laugh at me too!
The long-haired punk scoop, one of the most unsettling encounters in Dead Rising, introduces Paul's narrative. When Frank runs into Paul at the Wonderland Plaza's casual gal store, Paul has taken Debbie and Mindy hostage and claimed they are making fun of him. Paul interprets Frank's unintentional knockover of a gas can as an act of aggression, believing that Frank is just another person trying to harm him. He even warns Frank to stay away from him by threatening him. This is a glaring indication of his dangerous mental state. It's the fact that he's cornered, desperate, and carrying Molotov cocktails. This scene perfectly captures Paul's mental collapse. He is afraid, combative, and unable to tell the difference between people who are making fun of him and those who may actually want to help. The battle that follows is chaotic and revealing of Paul's mental state. Here's how Paul fights. Paul's primary weapon is the Molotov cocktail. When he throws one at Frank, it creates a fiery explosion that can cause heavy damage. Paul's clumsiness with the Molotovs also means he is at risk of burning himself, symbolizing his tendency to self-sabotage. Paul drops these bombs while running from Frank, creating a chain of explosions that make him hard to pursue. It's as if he's setting traps as he tries to flee, showing how fear drives his every move. Paul's paranoia and defensive tactics show in his use of these rigged toy cars. He used them as yet another weapon to keep Frank at a distance. Paul throws a Molotov in a final desperation attempt after Frank defeats him, but he stumbles and burns himself alive. Frank has a rare opportunity to decide whether to let Paul burn or use a fire extinguisher to save him. Paul changes his mind and says he didn't know what he was thinking if Frank chooses to extinguish the fire. Paul has a death that many psychopaths don't have because of this redemption arc, which is exclusive to Dead Rising. He is one of the few who genuinely acknowledges and regrets the harm he has caused. When Paul returns to the security room, his paranoia remains, and he requests that Frank conceals his previous behavior from the other survivors. He offers Frank Molotov cocktails in return. This is a mixture of tragedy and satire in the scene as Paul tries to help Frank in the only way he can, even if that means giving him the same weapons he used to harm others. Paul's past is the source of his development into a fearsome, paranoid character who wields fire. He felt helpless and ashamed after years of bullying and loneliness. When the outbreak occurs, he sees it as a perverse chance to feel in control at last, but rather than overcome it, he allows his rage to control him, which results in risky behavior. His strong defensiveness only serves to further isolate him, despite his desire to shield himself from the harsh realities of the outside world. The irony about Paul's character is that, as his core, he is just a scared young man who, had he had trusted everyone, could have been a useful ally. Frank gives Paul a second chance by redeeming him, but it's obvious that Paul has a long way to go. In Dead Rising, Paul Carson's narrative is both distressing and unique. His encounter with Frank West serves as a reminder of the fine line separating survival from destruction, and he personifies the fear and paranoia that can surface in times of crisis. Despite not being a heroic figure, Paul serves as a potent example of how loneliness and trauma can distort a person's natural tendencies. Frank provides him a second chance by saving him, which is an uncommon instance of the redemption in a harsh world. Thank you for watching this breakdown of Paul Carson. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the complex characters of Dead Rising. Let me know in the comments which character you would like to see next. Thanks again and see you next time.